Yeah, hi everyone. So my name's Josh, and good to see you all here today. As Amanda mentioned, we're going to be looking at really what we call the customer experience platform within the Dynamics 365 ecosystem. So specifically, what that involves today is what we call marketing, sales, and customer service platforms, and really that's a unified platform within the Microsoft ecosystem. And we'll go in a little bit more detail into that later on. So the structure for today is I'll be going through some slides. And then we'll jump in and have a little bit of a look around the demo environment, and then finish off with if anyone has any questions. So we'll jump straight in. So manufacturers today are under pressure from every direction. Now, part of this is that teams often lack visibility into their customers' assets and interactions across the entire life cycle. So often we have separate systems for our sales, separate systems for our marketing, and separate systems for our customer service. And a lot of the times, a lot of what we do is tied into our email accounts and into, say, Excel. And we're just not getting that visibility across the entire organization, right? But ultimately, each of these teams depend on having all of our customer information available and ready at hand. But delivering a truly personalized experience is hard to deliver, right? And that is because organizations and departments often operate in silos. And so it's very easy for these organizations to operate in silos. And that goes back to what I mentioned is quite often our marketing, sales, service, and other teams are operating separate, not to mention data from other platforms sitting in separate systems. So we don't have all of that information together when we need it. But at the end of the day, the customer doesn't operate in a silo, whether they're dealing with marketing, sales, or service, or another department. They want every interaction to flow on from the last, and they want you to understand the context of if they were dealing with, say, marketing and then start communicating with sales or service. They want you to be aware of where they are at on their journey. And so that's really where this customer experience platform comes in. And the best way to sum it up, it is a unified platform sitting inside what we call the Microsoft Dataverse. And it brings together all of your customer and prospect data from across your organization and unifies that into one system. So it doesn't matter whether we are talking sales, marketing, service, or even data that we have across various other systems, let's say ERP and emails and meetings and so on. We want to unify that into one system. The reason we want to do that is because we get a unified profile of our customers, right? So having a single view of your customer across your organization is extremely important. Thinking of the companies and the individuals as part of those companies that you deal with on a day-to-day. I'm sure you can all attest to the fact that there's probably data that you have sitting across various locations. And so what the customer experience platform aims to do is bring all of that data together into the unified platform, so that whether marketing is using this profile or service is using this profile or sales is using this profile, we get that complete visibility. So someone in sales can see if they've got open active support tickets. They can see active marketing emails that are being sent out. So we get that complete visibility across the board. And that's really what's going to be highlighted today. So how it works is we have our three platforms that I mentioned: Customer Insights, which is your marketing, your sales, and your service. These are three separate product SKUs from Microsoft, but under the hood, it is the same product. So when we go into a contact or an account or a company, then it's going to be the same whether you're accessing it from sales, service, or marketing. And it goes back to the point of that 360-degree view of your customer. But of course, we know that not all of our data just sits in those three platforms, right? We know that we've got Office 365, which has got your Teams, it's got appointments, it's got emails. We're going to have other systems like ERP systems, possibly our website, POS, and so on. These are all different areas that we have customer information or prospect information. And so the first stage is within the customer experience platform, we get all of this data together with connectors that we have from Microsoft, and we bring that in and go through a unification process. And what really that is at the end of the day, it's saying, how do we connect all of this data into one data source so that we can create that unified profile? So once we get that information unified, we go into the next stage, which is where we start to generate insights. And really insights are pulling key information out of that data that's going to be leveraged by sales, service, and marketing teams. And everyone's going to need something different, right? Your marketing teams that want to create their list of emails of customers that they want to communicate to. Sales might want to know who their hot leads are, or who's most likely to purchase, or even churn, so they can go after those prospects. Customer service needs some information to help prioritize their support tickets, and really those insights are there to help drive that and present that information. And that's through a few different ways, even down to the level of where we can use predictions, which is AI models that can help surface information that maybe we didn't quite pick up on ourselves. Finally, all of that information goes into a unified profile that I mentioned before, and we'll see that a little bit later on. But also we have the opportunity to send that data elsewhere as well. So Microsoft fully understands that, okay, we've got this awesome unified profile of our customers and our prospects, but maybe we want to send some of that information elsewhere. Maybe it's to Power BI so we can generate some custom reports. Maybe we do some advertising on social media or Google or other channels. So maybe we want to send some of our targeted lists over to those platforms so that when we spend money on advertising, we can target the right people, right? So now that we have our unified profile, I'm going to go and just give a bit of an overview of each of the three products I mentioned. First one being Customer Insights, which is, again, our marketing platform. Okay, so really at the end of the day, the marketing platform or Customer Insights is really tailored around what we call a customer journey. And a customer journey is being able to send prospects and customers through a unique experience for various different things. So think of maybe someone places an order, maybe there's a service request, maybe someone's requested a quote from your website. These are all different things that enter customers into a journey, and they will then get a unique experience. So that could be as simple as sending a confirmation email. Then maybe we'll go and generate a lead or an opportunity in the system so that we can hand that over to our sales team. But there's various additional steps that we can add to that, and various different channels that we can communicate through. So we can send emails, we can send SMS messages. If we use WhatsApp, we can communicate through there. So yeah, really just driving home that the customer journey is about delivering messages at the right time through a sequence or a journey. But it's not just those types of journeys. There can also be what we call segment-based journeys, and that is our typical marketing emails and things like that, where we might have a list of customers that we want to target for promotions, deals, and things like that. Now, from the marketing system, of course, we're going to need to build some of these communications, right? So if we send people through a customer journey and we want to send an email out on, say, submission of a form or when they've placed an order, we've got a beautiful drag and drop experience where we can go and create visually appealing on-brand emails directly from the system, all drag and drop. So it's very easy for us to go and generate these emails that are on brand with the right styles and colors, really in a matter of minutes. Not to mention there is Copilot built throughout the system. If anyone here is not familiar with Copilot, it's really the AI engine from Microsoft, and it can help us in various ways. So thinking of emails is just one example. It can help generate content in the emails. It can help adjust the tone of voice within the email for the content. It can even come back to helping generate recommendations of content, maybe what images and assets we should be putting inside our emails. So very nice tools to go and build emails. And an additional layer to that is that we can even personalize these emails. So what I mean by that, let's say we want to introduce with the customer's name, maybe we want to print their order information, or what the information are based on what they want to get a quote for. All of this can be populated automatically into the email, so we don't need to manually do that every time. And that's part of the whole idea, is helping automate a lot of these processes. But it's not all just about the communication, the outbound communication. Quite often the system is also leveraged to generate tools for you to capture leads or capture customer information. And one of those examples is web forms. Again, a drag and drop form builder where we can go and build forms, whether that's an order form, a request to quote form, return authorization forms. These are all common examples of forms that we can go and build, drag and drop forms, and then in a matter of clicks, go and embed that on our website. Now, the benefit here is that because we're doing this directly from our CRM, it's going to then go and create those records in the system. So that could be generating a contact record, generating a lead directly in the system, or some other record. And then ultimately we can enter these people through a journey to deliver some sort of communication and have follow-up actions. So again, really nice and easy to go and build these assets and embed them straight on your website. I did slightly mention before that inside of a customer journey, we can hand things over from marketing to sales or customer service. And because at this point in time, the journey is built by the marketing team, and we can create a lead, create an opportunity, or create a task that is ultimately handing over this contact to the sales team at the right time. And on the screen here, the example is here, someone signed up for a free trial, and at that point in time, that was the signal for us to go and hand this over to sales. But of course, you will have your own unique cases where there might be times where we're delivering communications or someone performs an action and we want to hand that over to sales. So it's a nice and streamlined approach. But that's not all from the marketing side. But I just wanted to highlight that it is really an end-to-end marketing platform. So I've only scratched the surface here with those slides today. But of course, we've got all of our communication channels. We have tools like lead scoring if you have a lot of leads coming in, where we can score based on their behavior. Let's say people are opening emails, submitting forms, visiting your website. These are all things that we can leverage to score our leads and really surface the hot leads in the system. But we can do things like creating surveys if you want to get feedback from your customers. We can create events if you host in-person events. Really, the tools are endless, and Microsoft's aim here is really to have one ecosystem for all of your marketing functionality, so you're not having to have all different siloed systems for all of your different marketing functions. Okay, so with that, now we're going to jump briefly over to the sales component. So sales is really about enabling your sales team and improving, simplifying their day-to-day process. And really a lot of this starts with what we call the sales accelerator. So again, in the same platform, our sales team, they're going to have a different set of tools, but it's still, again, looking at the same underlying record here. So if we were sending marketing communications to a lead, in this case, Alex Baker, or the sales team was actively working against Alex Baker, it's the same lead. So all of that information that happens gets stored against the profile. But what we have here is the sales accelerator, and you can think of the sales accelerator as a day-to-day list of everything that needs to happen. So for each individual sales team member. So if you had set up appointments, if you had set a reminder to contact someone in 2 weeks, if you had put a note that you had to send an estimate on a certain day, or really any other day-to-day activity that you perform from a sales activity, that will sit inside your sales accelerator. So you will always come to work in the morning, open your computer or your phone, and you will get a tailored list directly in your CRM environment that's going to give you a list of what you need to do for the day, so that you really don't miss a thing. And it's not only that, right? So each item that sit in your sales accelerator will also have the step that needs to be done. So you can probably see over on the right hand side where we've got qualify for opportunity, and it says it's got a task button marked complete. So there's always going to be a set of steps that we need to complete. So maybe we can see the top one in the list, if you can see that it's first customer call. So if we were to click on that record, then it's going to direct us to make a call, which we can do directly from the system here. Once we finish that call, that task is then going to be marked complete, or it's going to move to the next stage. So you can start to see that you don't need to be operating from your Outlook, your Teams, your phone, your text messages. Everything can be unified into the one platform. And the benefit of that is everything we do from a sales standpoint is stored against this record. So if one of your salespeople pack up and leave tomorrow and another person comes in, they're going to have full visibility across the board as to what's happened with this lead or with this customer. So it's all about building that unified profile, as I mentioned earlier. So jumping across, there is a lot of AI capability built in now as well. And so one I just wanted to talk about very briefly today is one of the sales research agents. And so if you generate leads within your business, we have a dedicated area where those leads will be stored. And then we can set the sales research agent to go and actually start researching that customer, or that prospect, should I say. So it can go and start surfacing information from the web, their online presence, recent news, and so on. And it can come back and actually bring all that information for you together. So you can probably see in front of you, it's got key insights, it's got some key contacts, it's got business overview, it's even got some links down below to certain LinkedIn profiles. So it really can help speed things along when you are generating leads and you've got them stored in the system, and maybe you want a salesperson to go and action this lead and see if we can qualify it. It starts to do that research for you, so it streamlines your work and really takes you one step forward in that process. Another thing with the AI is that we do get summaries and we can ask questions as well, because I did mention that a lot of the time it does become your source of truth for your information. So if you want information from a lead or a customer, you can go and just ask Copilot about that information instead of going to have to look for that yourself. So another nice little AI capability that's built into the system. I did briefly mention the SMS and calling directly from CRM. And so this is a really great functionality. And you may be thinking, if I have a customer that wants a quote, or if there's a new prospect, why wouldn't I just go and dial their number or send them an email from my phone? And the reason is that first you're going to jump into this record anyway to look up what their mobile number is or their contact number. Now, if you make that call directly from the CRM environment, you're going to get a transcript. So it's going to record the call and transcript everything for you. So you've got all of those notes there. But not only that, it's going to actually summarize the call. If there's next steps, it can go and act on those next steps and maybe even put that into your sales accelerator that I mentioned at the start, if there's things that you have to do following that call. It can start to draft emails for you. If there was an action item to send an email, it can summarize that, generate the email and prepare it for you, and can even provide a sentiment analysis. So was it a positive, neutral, or negative call? Is all the kind of information that AI is really good at that it can do for you and present against those records in the system. So really worth highlighting that it's, again, about bringing all of this information together, and you're starting to probably see that the volume of data that we can be bringing in and storing against these records in the system. Going back to another AI capability, and this goes back to some of those predictions I mentioned at the very start, we can look at things, we can surface some key metrics that maybe we haven't been able to identify ourselves, but an AI model has. And so with things like customer lifetime value, maybe their churn risk, maybe you've got a repeat customer that's purchasing quite frequently, and if something changes, then this system can identify it and surface that information for you instead of you having to go and find this information at the time. So another nice handy feature there. Okay, so touched on the customer insights or the marketing platform and the sales platform. Now we'll just very briefly touch on customer service, and then we'll jump in and have a look at the product. Okay, so really customer service is around unifying any kind of service that customer service that you have within your business. So that could be customers making complaints or claiming warranty, or even just general support. All of these things can funnel in and again into this unified platform that we have in a dedicated customer service area. This can be triggered from multiple ways. It could be maybe a portal where someone can make a submission and that enters into the system. Or maybe it's a little bit less formal and they're contacting you via, let's say, even a Facebook message or an email. We can bring all of that information into a unified platform and customize that to fit your service approach and really guide you through that end-to-end process. Again, there is agents built into the customer service as well. So these are AI agents that can go and work autonomously. Will be a little bit of a video with no sound playing here in the background, but this one here is the middle one, which is the customer knowledge management. And so let's say you have support tickets come through, people need support, then the customer knowledge management agent can actually go and constantly sift through these tickets or these customer service tickets and start to summarize and generate knowledge. And that knowledge can be used for future cases, right? So it starts to build up that knowledge base. And so instead of someone having to go in and manually build these knowledge sources, the AI agent will do that for you and really just let you go in and approve or make some changes and then mark it as done, and then you've got these knowledge sources. But it can be used in various scenarios depending on your use case. But it's really, at the end of the day, helping you build up these knowledge management so that you can have this for internal staff, but maybe you want to surface that information to your end customer as well, depending on the type of service that you offer. Office 365 is, of course, very embedded into the platform, not something I've gone through a lot today, but throughout the platform, we do have access to Office 365 modules throughout. So in this case here, what's in front of me now is I'm working through an active case in the system, and instead of flicking over to, say, Microsoft Teams, I can start a new Teams chat directly from my interface, from CRM, and that allows me to either escalate and hand over to someone else, maybe just get input from an expert, bring that information back in and store that directly against the case that we have open. So really nice and handy feature to be able to bring and surface some of that information in the system. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to jump in and briefly touch on some of the components that we have in the system. So I just want to make sure you get a bit of a feel of how these products operate, what it looks like, and then we'll circle back to some questions at the end. Okay, so what I have in front of me now is a typical Dynamics 365 customer experience environment, right? Over on the left-hand side, you will see a navigation menu. Now, depending on whether you're operating in sales, service, or marketing, then you will see a tailored menu for the areas that you need to operate within. So it doesn't mean that you have to be assigned one role and you're in sales and that's it. You can be assigned to multiple, but at the end of the day, they are split up into those separate product categories. But there is some things that are similar across the board. If you remember, I mentioned earlier, there's contacts, which we see over here on the left, contacts, accounts, and leads, and opportunities for that matter, are the same whether we go from sales, service, or marketing. And the rest of the items are really tailored functionality that we have within each dedicated area. But it's very important that we do have our unified profiles, and that's why we have the same profile across the board, right? So when we think of a contact record, it doesn't matter whether we are talking sales activities, marketing activities, or even service activities. Everything is captured and stored against the one contact profile that we have in the system, or one account profile that we have in the system. Now, if some of those terms are a little bit new, account, contact, really an account just represents a company and most likely a customer. And a contact represents an individual, normally part of a company. But when we go into a contact record, what we are given up front can change drastically, but this is what we see in an out-of-the-box solution. We have a lot of our demographic details down the left-hand side. What's the common details like first name, last name, job title, email, business phone, what company they're part of, and that's where we see this account name. So it's about capturing the right information, and everything here is customizable, right? So we understand that the data that you want to capture from your customers may vary to what we see here. And so that's really where we work with you to tailor this solution to make it fit for your organization. So making sure that we have the right customer information, the right fields in the system. Now, typically down the center here, down the middle, this is our timeline. Now, our timeline is every time we have a customer interaction, we store it within the timeline. So that gives us the full visibility for whoever is going and accessing this record. So if someone is requesting a quote, placing an order, raising a support request, maybe we're just sending them an email or sending them a text message. These are all different things that we can go and look at in the system and see, okay, this is a timeline of all the activities happening. So we get that complete visibility across the board, and we can see some examples here down the timeline of different meetings, introduction mail, and so on, all listed down the timeline here, but allows us to give that consolidated view of everything that's happening for our customer. In this case, the contact, the individual. But again, we surface all of that information. Quite often we have additional tabs up the top as well, which is going to surface additional information that we might want to have for our customers. Here we have some personal information, some marketing information, and contact preferences. It's all about bringing all that information together. Now, you may be wondering, where's the company, the account information? So we can see that Alex Baker is part of Tray Research. If we go into Tray Research, it sits in a separate area because the account or the company will have the same kind of view, but tailored information for the company record. And you can see some of the differences we have here. We've got a timeline down the middle, which is similar, but we've got some different account information, like what's the account name, phone, fax, website. We may want to add things like ABN and so on. And then we've surfaced some other information up at the top. What's the annual revenue? What's the number of employees? And it even goes down to the point of who are all these contacts that sit within this organization, right? So we have all of that information stored there as well. So we could go into each of these contacts and they could be tagged as their different roles, so that we have really a rich overview of our customers end to end. So that's our accounts and contacts. Now, I'm just going to briefly jump over to another area, then I will come back to here. I just really wanted to touch on those contacts and accounts, and but before I go any further in the sales area, I'm just going to briefly go back to customer insights, which is the marketing. So I've got that in a separate tab here, so I'm going to jump across. Now you can see that it's a similar view, but the menu options down the left are a little bit different, right? So there's going to be, we're still going to see our contacts and leads and so on, but there's going to be unique features that we want from a marketing standpoint. So I'm just going to scratch the surface on some of these features and show you maybe a fairly common use case. And what that is going to be is, let's say when someone requests a quote, we want to send them through a customer journey and hand that over to the sales team. And this is all can be done and set up directly from the marketing module or customer insights. So where I'm going to start is I can jump straight over to my web forms that we see on the left-hand side here. back from my slides, I went through web forms where we can create forms for a various range of scenarios. Whenever you want to capture some sort of information from prospects or customers, we can go in and build a web form, and then I'll show you what we can do from there. So we have a very, very basic web form that I put here. Again, it's all drag and drop, and we can go in and define which fields we want to capture. So in this case, this is a request a quote form. I've put first name, last name, email, company. Of course, there's going to be some other information that I want to capture. And so on the right-hand side, I can come over and actually bring other data fields that I want to bring in and capture against this record. So just as a very basic example, I want to capture their state. Maybe I want to then route this prospect over to a salesperson based on their state. And so I can then come in and drag this field into the system. And there I've got that field there ready to be able to be captured in a submission. So of course, there's still going to be other fields that I want to capture, but I just wanted to highlight that, of course, we can go and add any types of fields that we want to capture. Maybe there's a drop-down selection box. Maybe there's a multi-select or a checkbox, date and times for appointments and so on. We can drag all of those options into the form, and then when we're ready, we can press this publish button. And what this is going to do is publish my form and get it all ready for me so I can embed that into my website. So now it's come up here with a pop-up where I can either click get JavaScript code. This gives me a little code snippet that I can then pass to whoever manages the website and say, hey, can you embed this form onto my website? Or I can just create a standalone page. So if I don't want to go and embed this on my website, I might want to create a very basic landing page to be able to capture customer information. There we go. We've got this web form ready to go, and I can start capturing customer information. So this is to request a quote. Now I want to show you how we can go about connecting this to a journey where we can send an email out of confirmation, and we can go and hand this over to the sales team. So I'm going to jump back across here, and I'm going to go from my forms up to my emails. I know I've got my emails ready, so let's jump across. And here I'm going to jump into Premium Coffee Systems. It's a coffee system manufacturer, by the way, if anyone didn't catch on throughout the presentation. But yeah, so again, we've got a drag and drop experience to go and build emails, and this email here literally did take me a matter of minutes to go and put together. And it's really just giving that handshake to say, hey, we've got your request to quote. Someone's taking care of it, and someone's going to get back to you. Of course, this is a very basic example, and we could be doing a range of other things. But across the board, we can leverage these emails to go and automate these things. We don't have to be manually creating emails every time. So everything is drag and drop in the system, so we can go about modifying text, we can add images, add custom sections, and go and build out our email for our given scenario. In this case, I'm pretty happy with what I have here. It's got some just very basic information to confirm that we've got their submission, and you'll see that it's also personalized. We can bring in personalized information, so the customer's first name or any other details that we want that we have against our customer inside this information. Maybe it's an order confirmation, and maybe we want to print all of the products that they ordered, so it's in the form of kind of like a receipt. We can do those things and bring and personalize that information into the email, so that way we're not having to manually do that every time. So again, really streamlining things. And to show you how easy that was, I will get rid of this first name, and instead of me typing hi Josh or whatever that would be in an individual use case, I can go and select personalization, and I'd be able to then select a field or go new dynamic text to look up all of the other information that we have in our system. That could be order information, request a quote information, and so on. And we find the field what we want and we add it in. So very nice and easy to bring that information in. Okay, so we've got our email ready to go. We're very happy with this, and we're going to jump on and start to connect this all together via a customer journey. So how do we do that? We go up to the journey section. I'm going to discard this email because I know I've already got a copy of it, and I've got a journey ready to go. But I'm just going to show you how quick this really is, but I'm going to create it again. And we can leverage Copilot to pass through our requirements for the journey in natural language. But just to show you how quick we can actually set this one up, I'm going to press skip and create from blank. And I'm going to call this journey request a quote V2. And I'm going to select the trigger. So instantly when I select the trigger, it's going to be, the trigger is really what is triggering the entry into this journey, right? So that's things like order created, maybe submitting a survey, visiting your website. These are all different options of entry into a journey. But in our case, we're looking for when someone submits that request a quote form. So the trigger we are going to be looking for is when a marketing form is submitted. And then from there, we'll be able to choose which specific form we want to target, and we can select request a quote. And now we can select create, so that now when someone submits the request to quote form, they will go straight into the CRM as a contact record, and then they will enter straight into this customer journey. So now we can decide, what do we want to do next, right? So the first thing I want to do is, we created the email previously, and so I'm going to select email, and I'm going to send through my confirmation email. So we can click on inquiry confirmation. And so now we have the first step of our journey. When someone flows through after submitting that form, they are going to receive this communication. Now, what we want to do from there is actually hand this over to a salesperson. From a marketing standpoint, we're done. We may communicate to them through other messages throughout the system, but for now we're happy to send this over to a salesperson, and we can do this in one of various ways. So we have things like creating phone call activity, tasks. Do we want to create a lead or an opportunity? So in this case, someone's requesting a quote. In my eyes, that's an opportunity. So we are going to select create an opportunity and hand this over. And so we're going to say request a quote submission, and we can define who we want to assign that to, right? It could be, if the contact was existing in the system, it could be the contact owner. We can define a specific user, or we can leverage other routing rules as well. So let's say you wanted to allocate based on the contact state. And if you had salespeople in different states, then we could leverage branching to actually divide that up per state and then assign that to that specific salesperson. For now, I'm just going to go contact owner, and I'm going to press save and publish. And that's it. So now when someone submits the request to quote form, they're going to receive that communication, and then we're going to hand that straight off to sales. So you can kind of see by looking at this how the marketing, and in this case, the marketing and sales are very tightly connected, in that we can hand marketing activities off over to salespeople. Okay, so that's what I was planning to cover today for the marketing component, or customer insights. And so now we're going to go in and take a look at just some additional components inside the sales module. But just keep in mind that only we've scratched the surface today in the customer insights. When we looked at my slides earlier, there was obviously a lot more features in here, and yeah, if you're looking to explore the product further, we're happy to take you through those additional features. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump back over to my sales application, and what we can see here is the sales trail up here. Now straight away we land onto a dashboard, right? This dashboard can be customized, but I've got some of the core things that I want to bring in for each of the salespeople. So everyone that's in the sales team would have their own set of lists and reports that appear here. But we can see here what's in my work list, what leads do I have open, recent calls, opportunities at risk, pipeline by stage, and so on. So any of that core information that we want to surface into the dashboard, we can do so. So it's always good to jump in the morning, and this is our first page that we land on. But typically where we would go after that is our sales accelerator. Now, Sales Accelerator, as I mentioned in the slides earlier on, it's really about bringing all of the activities that a specific salesperson needs to action on any given day. So when they come into their Sales Accelerator, it's going to have a defined list of what needs to happen. That could be making calls, following up on previous interactions, joining meetings, and so on. So for each item that we have in our Sales Accelerator, there's going to typically be what we call a sequence that is associated with that. So in this case, we've got to follow up with an email. So we could then click on that email action, and we can prepare the email for this sequence directly from CRM and trigger that off. So it's going to pop up and populate the to, who it's from. In this case, it's just my demo system, and it's already gone and placed some content in there in the email body. If we were happy with that, we could press send, and that would be that task complete now until the reminder email comes back into our Sales Accelerator in coming days. So once we do that, it would automatically mark off, but there's going to be certain tasks that don't automatically get marked off. So then we would click mark complete, add a reason if we need to, and then that item is going to disappear from our Sales Accelerator, and it's going to move to the next action item that we need to complete within our work list. So really just think of this as a way for all of your salespeople to stay organized, stay on top of their deals, and really bring all of their tasks and activities into one central location instead of relying on multiple applications to keep up with their day. Okay, so just briefly want to touch on some other areas. Obviously, we looked at contacts, accounts, and so on. But another area that we just want to jump into is opportunities. So we can think of an opportunity as someone that has expressed interest in doing business with us. Typically, that's where it goes to an opportunity stage. And that's where we'll start to capture some of those extra details, maybe what the client's budget is, what's the estimated revenue, what's the probability of this deal going through, the rating, maybe things like timelines. I suppose it's all customizable and totally up to what an opportunity looks like for you. But this is typically the place that we would take care of that, record activities, and make sure that we're on top of these opportunities. So what we can see up here is the deal tracker. It's going to show us some of the deals in the various stages, whether it's in the qualification stage, develop stage, propose stage, or close stage. And it's going to be organized by date so that we can see that as well, just as a quick glance, and seeing things about our pipeline value and so on. But at any time, we can go into one of our opportunities, and it's going to open that over on the right-hand side. But in this case, I'm going to select to actually expand this out. I want to go in and look a little bit further. So we're going to click that, and I'm going to open that into a new tab. And here we can see the opportunity loading up. So the opportunity may look similar to what we looked at earlier when we looked at contacts and accounts, but the clear difference here is everything is related to the opportunity that's currently at hand. So it's going to have some of those opportunity key details, a specific timeline for this opportunity, and any other key metrics that we want to track against this opportunity. It's also going to have a business process flow at the top here, and just reiterating that everything can be customized here. So it's not a one size fits all. It's a let's adapt this to your organization so that we can make sure that that is a fit for you. Okay, so I just wanted to briefly touch on that, but yeah, I'm going to close it off there, and happy to explore this further. The sales product is a beast in itself, and we would love to explore that further with you. But look, I hope you all enjoyed the session and potentially learned something today across the different products that the customer experience platform has to offer. And we look forward to potentially hearing from you. Thank you very much.